Welcome to the world of global trade, where goods, services, and capital flow across borders, shaping economies and influencing lives. At the heart of this dynamic system lies a concept that every nation watches closely: the trade balance. But what exactly is trade balance, and why does it matter? Today, we're diving deep into this economic cornerstone, exploring what it is, how it works, why it fluctuates, and what it means for countries, businesses, and everyday people like you and me. Buckle up for a journey through the world of exports, imports, surpluses, deficits, and the policies that keep it all in check. Let's start with the basics. The trade balance is a measure of a country's economic transactions with the rest of the world, specifically focusing on the difference between its exports and imports of goods and services over a specific period, usually a month, quarter, or year. Think of it as a financial scale. Exports, goods and services a country sells abroad, go on one side, and imports, goods and services it buys from other countries, go on the other. If the scale tips in favor of exports, you've got a trade surplus. If imports outweigh exports, you're looking at a trade deficit. And if the two are equal, that's a balanced trade, though it's rare in practice. To break it down further, the trade balance is part of a country's balance of payments, a broader record of all economic transactions between residents of one country and the rest of the world. The trade balance itself is split into two main components: the balance of goods, sometimes called the merchandise trade balance, and the balance of services. Goods are tangible items, like cars, smartphones, or wheat, while services include things like tourism, banking, or software development. Together, they tell us whether a country is a net exporter or importer in its global dealings. Let's put some numbers to this. Imagine country A exports $100 billion worth of goods and services in a year and imports $120 billion worth. The trade balance would be $100 billion exports minus $120 billion imports equals a trade deficit of $20 billion. Conversely, if country B exports $150 billion and imports $130 billion, enjoys a trade surplus of $20 billion. These numbers aren't just abstract. They have real-world implications for jobs, currency values, and economic growth. Why does the trade balance matter? At its core, it's a snapshot of a country's economic health and competitiveness. A trade surplus often signals that a country is producing goods and services that the world wants, boosting its economy and strengthening its currency. A trade deficit, on the other hand, might suggest a country is consuming more than it's producing, potentially leading to borrowing or currency depreciation. But it's not always that simple. Deficits aren't inherently bad, and surpluses aren't always good. Let's explore why. To understand the trade balance, we need to look at what drives it. Several factors influence whether a country runs a surplus or a deficit, and they're interconnected in fascinating ways. Let's break them down. 1. Economic growth and consumer demand. When a country's economy is booming, its citizens often have more money to spend, which can increase imports. For example, if people in the United States are feeling wealthy, they might buy more Japanese cars or European wines, pushing the U.S. toward a trade deficit. Conversely, slower growth can reduce import demand, potentially leading to a surplus. 2. Exchange rates. The value of a country's currency plays a huge role. A strong currency makes imports cheaper and exports more expensive, often widening a trade deficit. A weaker currency does the opposite, making exports more competitive. For instance, if the Japanese yen weakens against the U.S. dollar, Japanese cars become cheaper for American buyers, boosting Japan's exports. 3. Production capacity and competitiveness. A country's ability to produce high-quality, cost-effective goods and services matters. Germany, for example, is known for its engineering prowess, exporting high-value cars and machinery, which contributes to its consistent trade surplus. Countries with less competitive industries may struggle to export, leading to deficits. 4. Trade policies and agreements. Tariffs, quotas, and trade agreements shape the flow of goods and services. A country that imposes high tariffs on imports may reduce its trade deficit by discouraging foreign goods. Free trade agreements, like the USMCA United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, can boost both exports and imports by lowering barriers. 5. Global economic conditions. What's happening in the world matters. A global recession might reduce demand for exports, while a commodity boom, like rising oil prices, can shift trade balances for resource-rich countries like Saudi Arabia or Canada. Let's bring this to life with some real-world examples. Take Germany, a global trade powerhouse. In 2024, Germany recorded a trade surplus of approximately 264 billion euros, driven by its strong manufacturing sector, particularly in automobiles and machinery. Countries like the United States and China buy German goods in droves, giving Germany an edge. But Germany's surplus isn't just about making great cars. It's also about disciplined fiscal policies, a skilled workforce, and a culture of innovation. Now, contrast that with the United States, which has run a trade deficit for decades. In 2024, the U.S. trade deficit was around $971 billion. Why? The U.S. is a massive consumer market, importing vast amounts of electronics, clothing, and oil, while it exports goods like aircraft, soybean, and tech services. Its appetite for imports outpaces its exports. This deficit isn't necessarily a crisis. It reflects the U.S.'s role as a global consumer and the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency, which allows it to borrow affordably to finance deficits. Then there's China, the world's second-largest economy. For years, China maintained massive trade surpluses, fueled by low-cost manufacturing and exports of electronics, clothing, and more. In 2024, China's trade surplus was estimated at $600 billion. However, rising labor costs and trade tensions, like tariffs imposed by the U.S., have started to shift its trade dynamics, forcing China to focus more on domestic consumption and services. These examples show that trade balances aren't just numbers. They reflect a country's economic strategy, strengths, and challenges. But what happens when the balance tilts too far one way? Let's explore the implications of surpluses and deficits. A trade surplus can be a boon. It often means more money flowing into the country, which can strengthen the currency, increase foreign reserves, and fund domestic investment. Germany and China, for example, have used their surpluses to invest in infrastructure and technology. But there's a catch. Persistent surpluses can create tensions with trading partners, who may accuse the surplus country of flooding their markets with cheap goods. This was a key issue in U.S.-China trade disputes in the 2010s and 2020s. On the flip side, a trade deficit can signal challenges, like reliance on foreign goods or declining industrial competitiveness. It may also lead to increased borrowing to finance imports, as seen in the U.S. However, deficits aren't always negative. They can reflect strong consumer demand and a vibrant economy. For instance, the U.S.'s deficit partly stems from its citizens' ability to buy goods from around the world, supported by a strong dollar and access to global credit. The key is balance, not in the sense of a zero trade balance, but in managing the economic effects. Persistent deficits can weaken a currency over time, making imports more expensive and potentially fueling inflation. Large surpluses, meanwhile, can lead to accusations of currency manipulation or unfair trade practices, as other countries demand a level playing field. So, how do countries manage their trade balances? Governments and central banks have a toolbox of policies to influence exports and imports. Let's look at a few. 1. Monetary policy. Central banks, like the Federal Reserve or the European Central Bank, can adjust interest rates to influence currency values. Lower interest rates tend to weaken a currency, boosting exports by making them cheaper abroad. Higher rates can strengthen a currency, encouraging imports. 2. Fiscal policy. Government spending and taxation can affect trade. For example, investing in industries like renewable energy can boost export capacity, while subsidies for local producers can reduce reliance on imports. 3. Trade policies. Tariffs, quotas, and subsidies are direct tools. Tariffs raise the cost of imports, encouraging consumers to buy locally. Quotas limit the quantity of specific imports. Subsidies make domestic goods more competitive. However, these tools can spark retaliation, as seen in the U.S.-China tariff wars. 4. Exchange rate management. Some countries, like China in the past, have been accused of keeping their currencies artificially low to boost exports. This is controversial and can lead to international disputes. Beyond policies, trade balances are shaped by global trends. The rise of e-commerce, for instance, has made it easier for small businesses to export, while automation and AI are changing what countries produce and trade. Climate change is another factor. Countries investing in green technology, like Denmark with wind turbines, are carving out new export markets. Let's zoom out and consider the human side of trade balances. A surplus might mean more jobs in export industries, like manufacturing in Germany. A deficit could lead to job losses in sectors competing with imports, like textiles in some developing nations. But it also means consumers get access to a wider variety of goods at lower prices. The trade balance affects everything from the cost of your morning coffee to the stability of your country's economy. Now let's address some myths. First, the idea that a trade deficit is always bad. Not true. Deficits can fuel growth by meeting consumer demand and fostering innovation through competition. Second, the notion that a surplus is always good. Excessive surpluses can lead to economic imbalances, like over-reliance on exports, as seen in some East Asian economies during global downturns. Looking ahead, trade balances will continue to evolve. The shift towards services, like digital platforms and cloud computing, is changing how we measure trade. Geopolitical tensions, like those between the U.S. and China, are prompting countries to rethink supply chains, aiming for reshoring or nearshoring to reduce reliance on distant partners. And as sustainability becomes a priority, trade in green technologies, like electric vehicles and solar panels, will reshape global balances. So what's the takeaway? The trade balance is more than a number. It's a story of how countries interact, compete, and cooperate in a globalized world. It's about the cars we drive, the clothes we wear, and the technologies we use. Whether a country runs a surplus or a deficit, the goal isn't to win at trade, but to create a system that fosters growth, stability, and opportunity for all. As we navigate the complexities of global trade, one thing is clear. The trade balance is a dynamic force, reflecting the choices of governments, businesses, and consumers. By understanding it, we can better appreciate the interconnected world we live in, and maybe even make smarter choices about the goods and services we buy. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the world of trade balance. Until next time, keep exploring the forces that shape our global economy.